Emma Hartford had built everything from nothing. At 32 years old, she sat at the top of a company she had launched from a one-bedroom apartment in Austin, Texas, with nothing but a laptop, a dream, and a stubbornness that her mother always said bordered on dangerous. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small moments to change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories. Also tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? Hartford Digital Solutions now employed over 400 people, and Emma's face had appeared on the covers of 3 business magazines in the past year alone. From the outside, she had everything: a penthouse apartment overlooking the Colorado River, a closet full of tailored suits, a calendar so packed that her assistant, Sarah, had once joked that even Emma's bathroom breaks were scheduled. But inside, in the quiet corners of her chest where no business strategy could reach, Emma Hartford carried something heavy. She had been carrying it for 5 years, and some nights it pressed so hard against her ribs that she could barely breathe. 5 years ago, at 27, Emma had made the hardest decision of her life. She had been 7 months into launching her startup, barely sleeping, barely eating, running on caffeine and sheer willpower, when she discovered she was pregnant. The father was a man who had already walked away, leaving nothing behind but a voicemail and silence. She had held on for as long as she could, sitting in her car outside a clinic in Austin, crying until there were no more tears, before she made the decision to carry the pregnancy to term, and then give the baby girl up for adoption. She had chosen a private adoption agency, had requested that the process be handled quietly and completely, and had signed the papers 3 days after giving birth. She had held her daughter for exactly 47 minutes. She had counted every one of them. She had named her Rose in her own heart, though she knew the adoptive family would give her a different name. She had kissed her forehead, memorized the tiny curve of her nose, and then handed her to a nurse. Then she had walked out of that hospital and thrown herself into work with a ferocity that frightened even her closest friends. She never spoke about it, not to her mother, not to her therapist, not to anyone. She buried it under spreadsheets and product launches and investor meetings, and told herself that she had done the right thing, that she had given her daughter a better life than she could have provided in that chaos, that love sometimes looked like letting go. She believed it most days. On the other days, she just kept working. It was Sarah, her assistant, who finally pushed her towards something other than work. "Emma, you haven't been on a date in 2 years, Sarah had said on the morning of February 20th, setting a coffee on her desk with the particular firmness that meant a lecture was coming. "I signed you up for a dating app. Before you fire me, just look at one profile." Emma had looked at one profile. His name was Marcus Webb, 34 years old, kindergarten teacher, Austin native. His profile photo showed him laughing at something off camera, his smile wide and completely unguarded, the kind of smile that belonged to someone who had never learned to be strategic about joy. His bio was simple: single dad to the best 5-year-old in the world. Looking for someone genuine. Life is too short for anything else. Emma had stared at that bio for a long time. Then she had messaged him. They talked for 3 days before agreeing to meet. Marcus was easy to talk to in a way that felt almost suspicious to Emma, who had spent so many years in boardrooms where every word was calculated. He was warm and funny and completely unimpressed by her company, which she found immediately refreshing. He had asked her what she did to relax, and when she had struggled to answer, he had laughed kindly and said, "That's okay, we'll work on that." They agreed to meet at a small cafe on South Congress Avenue on February 23rd. 2 days ago, Emma arrived early, which was unusual for her. She was nervous, which was even more unusual. Marcus arrived exactly on time, and he was even more disarming in person than he had been over text. He was tall, with kind eyes and the kind of easy confidence that came not from ego, but from someone who was simply comfortable in their own life. They talked for 2 hours over coffee that went cold, because neither of them remembered to drink it. Emma laughed more in those 2 hours than she had in months. Then Marcus glanced at his phone and smiled apologetically. "I hope this is okay," he said. "But my daughter is with my neighbor, and I told her I'd bring her a muffin. She might have to come say hello. Is that all right?" Emma said of course it was. She meant it. A few minutes later, Marcus stepped outside briefly and returned with a little girl on his hip. She had dark curly hair and wide brown eyes and a gap-toothed smile, and she was wearing a yellow raincoat, with ducks on it even though it was not raining. "This is Lily," Marcus said, setting her down on the chair beside him. "Lily, this is Emma." Lily looked at Emma with the frank, unfiltered curiosity that only small children possess. She tilted her head. She stared. And then in the clear, certain voice of a child who has never had reason to doubt what she feels, she said, "You're my real mom." The cafe noise continued around them. Someone's coffee machine hissed. A door opened and closed. Emma Hartford, who had negotiated with venture capitalists and testified before a city council and once talked down a panicking board of directors during a data breach, could not speak. She could not move. Her entire body had turned to glass. Marcus looked confused and gently started to explain that Lily sometimes said surprising things, but Emma was not hearing him. She was looking at the curve of a small nose she had memorized in a hospital room 5 years ago. She was looking at her daughter. "Lily?" Emma whispered, her voice barely holding together. "What makes you say that?" Lily reached across the table and put her small hand on Emma's. "Because I dreamed about you," she said simply, with the complete confidence of a 5-year-old who sees no reason why dreams and reality should not match. "And because you look like me." Emma pressed her hand over her mouth. Her eyes filled with tears before she could stop them. Marcus was watching her now with an expression that had shifted from confusion to something much more careful and attentive. "Emma," he said quietly, "are you okay?" She looked at him. She looked at Lily. She thought about 47 minutes in a hospital room and 5 years of silence, and a name she had never said out loud. "I need to tell you something," Emma said. Her voice was shaking, but it did not break. "And I need you to know that I understand completely if this changes everything," she told him. She told him all of it, right there in the cafe on South Congress Avenue, while Lily sat between them eating a blueberry muffin and swinging her feet. Marcus listened without interrupting. When she finished, the cafe seemed very quiet. Then Marcus reached across the table, not to take her hand, but to place his gently near hers, an offering rather than a claim. "She talks about you," he said softly, "not knowing who you were. Just a feeling." She always called it her dream mom. Emma looked at Lily, who looked back at her with those wide brown eyes and smiled. The gap-toothed smile that held, impossibly, a piece of Emma's own face. "Hi," Lily said cheerfully, as though they were just beginning. "Hi," Emma said. And for the first time in 5 years, the weight in her chest shifted, not gone, but no longer hers alone to carry. Life, Emma Hartford was learning, did not always give second chances. But when it did, they arrived in yellow raincoats, with duck prints and blueberry muffin crumbs on their chins. And they looked exactly like hope. If this story moved you, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories, where we bring you real moments of love, courage, and second chances that remind us what it means to be human. Every subscribe helps us share more stories like this one with the world. Thank you for being part of this community.